So this is my my new wood rack that I just built. I've seen a bunch of these videos as far as how to build them, and to be perfectly honest with you, I mean this is basically a design that I saw on YouTube. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on how it went together and a couple tips on what to get and what you'll need. So basically, it's 10 feet long. It's about 16 inches wide, 15, 16 inches wide. The bars on either side are 5 feet. I basically chose the dimensions based on the size of the wood that I was getting. I got 6 10-foot 2x4s, and which is why I chose to do the size at 5 feet, just so that I could cut the boards in half and not waste any wood. So I actually only used 5 of the 6 to build it this way, and it really wasn't all that expensive. I mean, 2x4s are $3 or $4 a piece at Home Depot, and I did buy a couple extra things that I would definitely detail in this video and kind of recommend to you. I mean, I'm not a master carpenter by any stretch of the imagination, but it's pretty simple, and basically anybody can do it with your general hand tools. So I just kind of want to go over that just for a second so everyone can kind of see what I used. I mean, I don't have anything fancy. It's all pretty basic. I mean, you know, I've got a Ryobi battery-operated skill saw, Ryobi, you know, battery-operated drill. I did use a rubber mallet, came in handy a couple different times. A couple things that I would not have done this without. I actually just picked these up. It's really nice to have a decent set of clamps. I got these at Home Depot. I want to say the 4 set was like 35 bucks. Obviously, you're going to want some pretty decent screws. This is what I use for screws. I don't know if you can see, you know, what those are, but they're just 3-inch long outdoor screws. And I actually used the exact amount that was in this box, which is about a pound. So I used exactly every single screw, which worked out good. Another thing that I would have not done this and would not live without is a speed square. I mean, this makes your life so much easier when it comes to making a straight edge. It saves on marking because, quite frankly, you can mark a piece of wood on just one side and then line up your square. You don't have to mark it on both sides, and it makes your lines a lot easier to do. So, and then the other obvious stuff, obviously a tape measure you're gonna need. A pencil comes in handy for marking, obviously. So, I mean, really, this is the only stuff that I needed to build this. And to build it yourself, if you have all these tools, I mean, really all you would need to do is buy the wood and buy the screws. Another thing that came in pretty handy that I used a lot, and I'm trying to see if I can find it, was a drill bit. You want to pre-drill all your holes when you're using 2x4s, especially 2x4s that aren't pressure treated because they're so dry. You have a tendency to crack them, and I mean, it is a pain in the butt to have to pre-drill all your holes, especially for as many screws as you're going to use. But it'll save you a lot of headache in the long run as far as not splitting your wood. So I mean, just a basic kind of go over it. Essentially, you know, each end is just a piece of wood with 2 pieces of wood on the outside of it. I mean, it's pretty simple to put together. Once you have the clamps, it makes your life so much easier because you can clamp things together. You don't need to have 5 hands to get it done, so it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I just I measured everything out. These cross beams right here are 12 inches across, so technically it's actually probably, because these are 1.5 inches, so it's a little bit bigger than what I had anticipated. But with the type of wood that I use and how I cut it, I usually cut them to about 18 inches, so it actually works out really, really well for what I wanted to do. And it's kind of hard to see, but I did go ahead and I made a little feet on them just so that, you know, I kind of wanted to get them up off the ground. That way you don't get any moisture or anything like that. Plus, I feel like having it off the ground like that, if you have uneven ground, it'll be a lot easier for it to level. Whereas if you were just, you know, building these and setting them right on the ground, and quite frankly, if you were putting it inside like I have in the garage right now, those feet really aren't necessary. But it is nice because it's easier to clean up afterwards too. As, you know, if you have them there, you can just move it out of the way and sweep underneath it. So I did put a cross beam in the middle. Basically the same idea that I used as far as the ends, just to keep it, you know, just to keep it stable. I did put these in here, and I built a couple feet so that it's got some support in the middle, because as you can tell, it is pretty long. It's pretty lengthy. It's actually a little bigger than I really wanted to build it. I do have a pretty good sized woodshed, but I had some wood left over. But I mean, you know, the way I look at it is, you know, you're better off to build it bigger and have it than have it too small. So I did go ahead and secure the tops. This is basically the same size as those crosses. It's 12 inches across, so just to sure it up. I mean, it's very sturdy. You know, there's not a lot to it. It's pretty simple to build. I mean, anybody can do it. Overall, you know, it took me probably about an hour and a half. I was a little slow because I was checking my measurements and really taking my time, because I'm not great when it comes to that stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I put it together correctly. So, but it was pretty simple. I mean, like I said, it was pretty cheap. You know, you're talking $2 or $3 for 2x4s, and that box of screws was probably $8 or $9. So there was nothing really, you know, nothing really to it. And it's pretty sturdy. It'll work good for what I have to use it for. I mean, it'll probably hold, I would say, maybe a half a quart of wood, maybe a little under, maybe a little over, but it'll work really well, you know, for what I need it for. But it was pretty easy to build, and anyone can do it. You know, I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any comments or anything like that. But like I said, you know, I have to shout out to everybody that made these videos before, because it's basically their design. You know, I just wanted to get into a little more detail as far as, you know, how I did it and what I used and kind of why you should use certain things. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't even start it without having, you know, clamps, because it makes your life so much easier as far as making sure everything lines up. You know, and I definitely wouldn't go without a speed square. I mean, the speed square was like $8. So, and I mean, these are tools that you'll use, you know, in the future if you plan on building stuff, and you know, they're tools that I haven't had before. So it made my life a lot easier, where you don't have two hands. Even if you have a partner, it'll still be nice, because what you can do is you can kind of clamp everything and put it together. And then you can go around and drill all your holes, your presets, and then you can screw it, which will save you a lot of time, as opposed to doing one, you know, drilling, then screwing, then drilling, then screwing. You can kind of do everything at once, so it really makes things a little quicker. So, and like I said, you know, it is a pain in the butt, but definitely pre-drill all your holes. Use a drill bit. This drill bit's actually probably a little bigger than you really need. You probably want it to be about half the diameter of the actual screw, because you want them to sit in there tightly. Plus, it makes them screw in a lot easier. And I mean, I sink my screws, you know, it's kind of hard to see, but I would sink your screws, you know, a little bit, just to make sure you get that extra bite. So, but all said and done, it came out really good. It wasn't that hard to do, and I hope this video kind of helps someone who's looking to build one. Like I said, I didn't, you know, do the video as I was building it, just because I wanted to get it done relatively quickly, because I have some stuff to do this afternoon. But I mean, it's simple, it's sturdy, you know, it's going to work really well. And I think that anyone who wants to build a couple of these, I mean, you could, if you wanted to store all your wood outside, you could build 5 or 6 of these for probably under $100, no problem. I mean, it doesn't take you that long. You could spend a day and build enough of these to stack 4 or 5 cords of wood, no problem. So if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to comment, and I'll be happy to answer them. Like I said, I'm not a carpenter, so the finish work isn't fantastic, but it'll serve for the purpose that I need, and it was relatively inexpensive. So, like I say, if anyone has any questions, feel free to comment. I'll be happy to answer them.